We've got another amazing show for you lined up tonight. We've got a returning guest. He was only on a short time ago, but I had to get him back on today because there's been so much happening in the meantime since I last spoke to him. Article 13 is something that is on every YouTube content creator's mind. And even if you are not a YouTube content creator, this will affect you. Because one day very soon you might go to log in to watch me, watch today's guest, watch one of your favourite YouTubers, and they might not be there. And that's all because of this new European directive that has now been ratified. So, who have I got on tonight? Well, I am welcoming back your YouTube community lawyer, Ian Corzine. And for anyone who hasn't heard of Ian, he's a California trial lawyer who focuses his practice on complex litigation cases involving insurance coverage and business disputes. Now, he's a lover of law and technology and has a special knack for intellectually cutting through the fluff and getting right to the heart of the matter. Ian's passion for getting to the point led him to create Heart of the Matter YouTube channel in 2018. And at Heart of the Matter, Ian gives straight answers to your legal questions. Now, because Ian himself enjoys reading through the comments from the YouTube community, what he does is he also publishes a question and answers and points of law videos on cutting-edge legal subjects. So please feel free to get in touch with Ian via the comments section on his video, on the video that we'll post from this show. And also, I'll get Ian to give you all the various ways you can follow him on Twitter, on Facebook, and all the rest of these brilliant sites that we're a part of. So, Ian, we're a bit of a rush there towards the end. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. It's so great to be on your show, Kev. I'm so excited. I was looking forward to it all week.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. And of course, like I said, Article 13, it's moved on since we last spoke. So could you bring us up to date with everything that's going on there, sir?
Yes, of course. So when we last talked, March 26, 2019 had passed, and the European Union Parliament had voted to adopt Article 13, or what's been renumbered Article 17. I was watching a video today with a creator, Aviva Fry, who was remarking that maybe they changed the numbering so people wouldn't notice that it got passed. And I don't know if that's true or not, but that's kind of funny. But bottom line is, on April 15th, this last Monday, the final vote for adoption of Article 13 and Article 11 and some of the other troubling portions of the law was put through to all the European Union nations. So all 28 nations had the opportunity to vote. They did. A majority ruled, and Article 13 has been passed finally and fully. And what does that mean to our viewers? We can talk about it in more detail, but the bottom line is the law allows the European nations 2 years to implement the dictates of the law into their own law. So France has to incorporate it into its law. Italy has to incorporate it into its law. England is a questionable question because of Brexit, but the nations have 2 years to implement it, and we're hearing through the media that a lot of nations are rushing to have the law implemented inside their statutes.
You see, this is where it starts to get confusing, really, isn't it? Because all of the individual countries now have to come up with their own individual legislation. But for people outside of the EU, I still think there's a lot of people think that this will not affect them. But I am totally opposed to that. I think we're going to see YouTube and the internet really changing big time over the coming months and years.
You said it. And actually, I said it in my video this week that I published on Tuesday. I made a video concerning what does Article 13 have to do with America? And I just picked America because that's the country I'm from. But really, the video should have been, what does Article 13 have to do with all other nations besides the EU nations? And I got to tell you, through my research, through my writing, through my discussions with other lawyers who are skilled in the area, it's going to substantially affect the outside world in a number of ways. Primarily, it's going to require that the social media platforms in Europe filter content, and strictly filter it, and block any potential copyright infringement content so that the social media platforms do not get sued for copyright infringement to the same extent of the copyright holder. So that's the basic part of the rule. But the problem is that we fear that over time, these super, what I call mega filters, are going to make their way into America, into Australia, into Canada. And so us creators out here who are used to the freedom of expression that we currently have and the ability to use the fair use defense to be able to win that fight, to have our videos, to have our art seen and heard, are going to lose that battle.
Now, what is YouTube's response to this? Because we know in the build up to this, I was actually quite impressed with the way that YouTube were approaching it. We spoke last time about the fact that they gave creators their own kind of packs full of graphics and things like that to use to try and highlight
Correct.
what was happening. But what are they saying, if you know, now that it has actually passed?
Well, I know a number of things. First of all, they're being political. YouTube is a parent of Google and the Alphabet company, and they have to be measured in their words because there's a lot of different interests at stake. But I can tell you one thing from personal experience, and that is the literal day after Article 13 was passed, so that would have been this last Tuesday when I was doing my video. There was a little blue headline at the top of the Creator Studio, which is the studio that we use to be able to, publish our videos. And it said, beware creators. Even a small portion of copyrighted content could land you a copyright strike. And I just remember seeing that and just falling back on my chair and going, wow.
Yeah, I seen that
happen.
I think what was it? It says that something like 1 or 2 seconds of copyrighted content could be enough to demonetize your video. Now, demonetization is one thing, but I think it's eventually going to lead to just that very same video. If it's got anything in it, it just won't be allowed to go live.
It won't be allowed to go live. If it's currently been uploaded, it will be blocked. And I think a majority of the time, I think we're going to see this. Most of the time when there's going to be some copyrighted content, it's going to be blocked on the upload. Someone will just not be able to upload their content to YouTube, regardless of the nature of the fair use defense.
Now, fair use and something else I've seen you covering, which is very pertinent to myself and other people I know. I like to play games, Ian, and games now, are they going to be copyrighted? As game streams going to be gone because of this?
Well, it's a real good concern. I have a couple of videos on it in my channel. You can check those out at Ian Corzine on YouTube. But yeah, the concern is this, a video game is a very interesting product because it's a bundle of copyrights and trademarks. The music that they use is copyrighted. The actual game footage is copyrighted. The game code is copyrighted. The logos are trademarked. So it's not just like me showing a picture of the Nike symbol in front of a camera. It is a real complicated thing. And in the past, how they've gotten around it is that it's been kind of an implied silent practice. The video game developers have been very careful to put out terms and conditions for streaming of their content. And frankly, they've done it because it's in their interest. This is how this video game culture has taken hold of the world. I mean, YouTube is a substantial portion of YouTube is video game content. And we're not just talking hour publications, we're talking 8-hour, 10-hour streams of various video games. And so it's going to be a very interesting question about whether that continues to survive in the EU nation. I could say this, the social media platforms are going to be so cautious as to not have copyright infringement content on their platform because they don't want to be sued by us lawyers who have a trigger finger when it comes to when we smell money. And I think that with live streaming, there's so many different copyrights that the social media platform can't be sure that the publisher of the video complied with each and every term and condition that is on the website for the game developer. And so as a result, I fear there's going to be blockages. I fear that this is the end of game streaming in the EU nations.
I wonder how games developers actually feel about that, because sometimes I feel that must be some of the best advertising that a game can have, seeing people playing these games and, the amount of people that actually enjoy watching those long marathon streams, it would surprise people. So it seems almost insane to be going down this road.
I totally agree. We get a lot of comments in some of our videos talking about the baked in fair use considerations that are actually in Article 13 or Article 17, but there isn't a discussion about video games. And it's surprising because even though I'm not buying into the statute's fair use principles, you would think there would be some mention of it because I got to tell you how much revenue is generated by video game streaming. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. It's going to be a real interesting process. I was reading an article yesterday about how this one author believes that there will be such divergent ways of interpreting Article 13 amongst the nations, and it has to do a lot with culture, just about how stringent they're going to be, how lenient they're going to be, how much money they have to enforce it. So it's going to be interesting where we may start seeing haven states or haven countries for fair use content. If you're going to publish this type of video, you got to go to Greece, or, if you're going to publish this kind of content, don't go to France. They're going to block it on the upload real quick. So it'll be very interesting to see how game live streaming survives, if it does, after Article 13.
And of course, for somebody like myself with a podcast that covers news stories, current events, all of the good stuff, not Article 13, but Article 11, I believe, will come into play there. And I've found myself already, Ian, and the audience will probably be shaking their head at me, throwing things at the screen, but I went to make a video the other day and I actually stopped myself. Because what I used to do is I used to show the article on the screen and I would go through some of the key points. But I was thinking, well, by definition, this is actually now illegal. Or is it? Because how much of that article can I use? What are the likelihoods of Joe Blogs, just your average guy, your average YouTuber, average girl, going out there and getting a license from, say, CNN or any of these kind of big media companies that cover the stories, not even showing any of their footage, but just the actual printed text? What's your take on that?
Well, my take is this. One of the best parts about YouTube, Twitch, and all the other social media platforms is the long-term existence of content, right? It's so neat. I'm sure you get a big kick out of it, Kev, when someone comments on a video you made a year before or 3 years before, and you're like, wow, that person watched that video and spent some time with me and was thoughtful enough to make a comment. Well, the problem is you said it right on it. I mean, today, that's not illegal. Showing a copy of the article, showing us a news snippet. Today it's not, but a year from now, we don't know what's going to happen, especially we're in your country. We don't know what's going to be adopted. So a lot of creators right now are like, okay, I guess we better start complying with the law now, even though we don't know what it is, because I don't want a copyright strike from 3 years ago. And I've had plenty of client creators come to me and say, my gosh, I've progressed in my career. I'm a full-time YouTuber, and a video 3 years back where I showed a 10-second clip of Seinfeld, I got a copyright strike, which poses a real threat to their livelihood. So the answer to your question is, it's not illegal today. I wouldn't do it.
No, that is pretty much my stance now. If in doubt, just don't do it, because I think that's the safest route to go. Now, something else I want to put to you as well, with everything that's going on with YouTube, we've also had a new platform kind of come into the play here, and this is DLive. We've seen PewDiePie going over there, and the other day he was giving away all these Lino points, a cryptocurrency kind of thing. Yeah. What do you think the viability of something like DLive or another platform coming along, especially now with Article 13, Article 11, it's going to get even harder for them to gain any traction, right? And I don't want to sound negative about DLive. I've done a few streams on there, but it just seems to me like it's going to be almost a monopoly that YouTube have on all of this.
Well, I went over to DLive too. When I read the news about PewDiePie, I started my channel there too, because you got to be multi-platform out there. But I don't know. I mean, I think that for gamers, that could be a viable option, because I looked at the platform and kind of went into detail on it, and it looks like it's really geared for live streaming, and that's good. YouTube is actually geared not for live streaming in the sense that it's really more of a library facility, and the chief reason why it has a monopoly on the social media stratosphere is because of the search function, right? That's why. I mean, if you think, why isn't Facebook taking over on video? Why isn't Instagram taking over? It's because YouTube has such a great search function. If I want to learn how to fix my screen door, I type it into YouTube, and it gives me exact video on how to fix my screen door. So when it comes to D Live, we really got to focus on the live portion of it and the fact that it's streaming. Will it survive? I like what I see. I like what their motive or their main purpose to be able to support creators and to basically give back the funds that the creators make to the actual creators. It's free to join. So I like it. I got to tell you, in light of Article 13, I don't know that it's going to survive in Europe. For the reasons we talked about, which is the bundle of copyrights and the fact that a social media platform could be held civilly liable if there's a violation of copyright law. For the reason that DLive, I don't know what their corporate status is, but I bet they can't afford the kind of content filters that are going to be required to be able to monitor live content for copyright infringement issues.
And this is one of the things I noticed when Pewdie was going about dishing out the cash. He went on to one young girl. She was singing a song. I think it was Knocking on Heaven's Door. And even Pewdie says, oh, no, copyright material. Wait a minute.
Yep.
This is DLive. Does it count?
Yeah.
Doesn't it count?
Yes, it does.
So,
of course it counts.
Yeah, it's copyrighted wherever it is, right? I mean, it's not as if it's the Wild West over on DLive and you can get away with everything, because they're under the same laws as well now.
Correct. Yeah, they are. And the other thing too, it's even more worrisome is the live factor. I mean, you have me on my show, or on your show, excuse me, but you don't know what the heck I'm going to do. I mean, could I cite some trademarked logos? Could I read some copyrighted material? Could I sing you a song for some reason? You don't have that kind of control. Think about how hard a process it would be for a social media platform to monitor millions of live streams at the same time, looking for copyrighted material that they would immediately block. I mean, it seems like an impossible task.
It really, really is. And I mean, there's no way around it now. There's no point protesting Article 13. That's passed. It's here.
Correct.
And I really need people to understand that, because the face of YouTube, and like I said in the intro there, people's favorite YouTubers, unfortunately, might not be there anymore.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially in Europe. Yeah, I mean, in Europe, it's going to be tough. I'm wondering what's going to happen. We're so used to this kind of free atmosphere for the internet, YouTube, Twitch. In Europe, it's going to be drastically different, right? I mean, the law requires blocking of any and all potentially copyrighted content in the country. So I used an example in my most recent video. Like, I made a video in America, or I made let's say a Facebook post in America, and I used some copyrighted content. I made a meme, or I did something like that. Well, while I can access that content in America, if I try to send it to my friend in France, he can't access it. It's going to be blocked. If I fly to France to visit my friend and I want to access that Facebook meme that I created from someone else's art, theoretically, I can't access it from Facebook in France because of the law. So it's going to markedly change. We're not, a lot of creators are talking about, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to do what I want to do. Well, that's one thing. But think about this. I'm not going to be able to see what I want to see.
And of course, over here in the UK, Brexit up in the air. Will it, won't it? I'm very cynical about whether we'll ever get to escape the EU. But the fact that we're going to have to come up with our own legislation anyway, Brexit's irrelevant, because we're still going to have new digital copyright laws going into effect. And don't get me wrong, we need an upgrade of the copyright laws. They are outdated. Yes. I've got nothing against people who are creating stuff and they're getting ripped off. They're losing out on money. I understand why this is happening. But it just seems to me like, instead of, they're taking a hammer to fix a problem that really doesn't need it.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And we talked about this in our last broadcast. You and I are both strong copyright protector people. We create our art. We don't want it stolen. If I ever do an online course, I don't want someone to take that online course and post it to their channel or post it to their website. No question about that. Sometimes people mistake our fervor for making sure the law is right with us saying, listen, yeah, man, everything is free and should be shared and there should be no cut. No. We're not even close to that. What we're talking about is a better solution to be able to protect copyright in this age when so much of our communication now is use of borrowed content. I mean, Kev, I don't know if you have children, but I have a
Yeah.
15-year-old, and one of the 60% of her communications on Instagram or Snapchat are memes. I mean, that's just how they communicate. Hey, Maddie, do you want to go get some ice cream? And Maddie responds with a meme. She doesn't respond with yes or no, let's go now, let's go later. She responds with a meme like heck yeah or whatever. So that's the reality, which is we are dealing with a culture that is used to and loves using borrowed content as a means to communicate. And this law is old school. This law is back with cassette tapes and CDs, and no, you can't sample without permission. Yeah, this law might fit there, but I don't think it fits in this age.
And you mentioned memes there, and I was watching PewDiePie's latest video today, and it's all his meme reviews. He goes around the net, he looks at some of the memes that are going around about the Hunchback of Notre Dame. That's quite a popular one right now. I mean, that kind of thing's going to be gone. You probably won't be able to show it anyway because it's containing copyrighted content, which are now memes. It's just, I can't get my head around it, Ian. I don't know. I just don't know what to say about this, dude. It's a dark day.
Yeah. And I want to get something out there because I've seen it in my comments. I mean, gosh, some people are like, well, Ian, there is an exception. The fair use doctrine still does exist. And the fair use doctrine will exist after Article 13 is implemented. And the answer to the question is yes, it does. And I'm going to continue to make fair use videos and to preach fair use because I believe it's a fundamental foundation of our culture and our art and our artistic creativity to be able to expand upon other people's work. Some would say everything is expanding on people's work as far as art goes. But the point of it is that those fair use, the social media platforms won't want to take a chance on fair use. That's the issue. And I'm hoping I'm connecting with your viewers right now and your listeners. They won't want to take a chance with it. I think maybe us lawyers are uniquely positioned to see how often lawsuits come about for frivolous things and how much power a lawsuit, even if it has absolutely no validity, has. Being sued is scary. Even if you're like, I didn't do that, I wasn't there. It is scary, and there's power when a large corporation sues an individual. And so, and vice versa, when a small lawyer sues a big company, because these companies are deep pockets, they have endless resources. So I guess what I'm trying to get at, guys, is that while fair use does exist, a lot of the social media platforms in the EU don't want to take a chance. They'll look at that meme and they'll say, oh, it's obviously parody. It's obviously a joke. It's obviously making fun of the concept in that particular picture for which the photographer has the copyrights. But the bottom line is, well, do I want to take a chance on that? Do I want to put my millions or billions on the line for that? And I think the answer is no. And that's why they're going to err on the side of blocking content with copyrighted issues on it.
Now, we've been really dealing with visual content. Obviously, it includes audio as well. But here we are going out on the radio on an American network. I'm over here in Scotland. If we hadn't had that little Skype glitch when we first hooked up today, you'd have heard my brilliant intro theme, which includes an extract from the film Network. And it's one of those ones where just get mad, that kind of thing. Now, how does that go then? Because if you're listening just to a podcast or something like that, I mean, that is copyrighted. I know that for a fact. I can't put it onto YouTube. I don't even try. So is there a chance that over here in the EU, and I hate to say this, could something like Truth Frequency Radio end up being blocked?
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, you got to get it permission. You would have to contact the movie producers or the movie developers, the movie studios that own those copyrights and get permission and pay for it probably. Listen, could see, this is the problem. It's the leverage. Could you publish it in the EU and be okay? Well, maybe the answer is yes. Maybe the answer is 90% of the time. All right. But you know as well as I do, we're YouTubers. We have 3 strikes, right? And if we get that 3rd strike, guess what? No more Ian Corzine channel on YouTube. And maybe I'm on D Live, or maybe I'm on a smaller platform. Okay. So when we're balancing this thing, we're making sure that, boy, I love that quote, but is it absolutely essential so that people won't take my meaning if I don't use it? The answer is probably no. And you're probably not going to want to take the risk that 3 years down the line, someone makes a copyright claim on it, or the content ID filter picks it up.
We're on the break. When we come back, I'll
Yep.
get Ian to share all of his contact details, where you can find him. And I've got a couple of more important questions to get into with your community lawyer, Ian Corzine. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Kev Baker Show.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm joined today by Ian Corzine, your YouTube community lawyer, and he covers everything that's happening on social media, from the legal ins and outs to trending stories. But before we get back into it, Ian, let everyone know where they can follow you, where they can check out your content. And for anyone out there who is a content creator, I honestly think that the service that you're providing is priceless. I could sit for hours going through your videos, and the things I've learned just in the few that I have been able to go through, it's been absolutely, like I say, priceless, dude. You've kept me right already a couple of times, so I'd like to pass that on to other people out there. Where can they find you, man?
Thanks, Kev. You're so kind. I just love being interviewed by you. My ego always goes straight to the roof. Well, primarily they can find me on YouTube, and the best way to find me is just type in the search blank Ian, Ian Corzine. Ian Corzine, and my channel will pop up, and you'll be able to access me that way. Additionally, I do a lot. I'm very active on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at Ian Corzine, Ian Corzine. I also have a very active Facebook group, and you can find me on Facebook by typing in my name, Ian Corzine. You'll find that we have a Heart of the Matter Facebook group where we give advice, personal advice, to creators just starting out, and then sometimes even along the path for a long way. So yeah, those are the three methods of contacting me. I'm very active in my comments. So if someone wants to comment on one of my videos, I'm certainly going to get back to them and answer their questions. I want to help.
And I'm glad, since the last time we spoke, your channel's exploding, dude. I think you've added about 1,000 subscribers in the past week. And I've seen you giving credit to a major content creator on Twitter today. Do you want to talk about that? Because, you know, sometimes these bigger content creators out there, they forget when they were languishing with like 2,000 subs. But it's nice to see that people are helping get your stuff out there, because even the massive creators like PewDiePie and all the rest of them, you know, there's advice that you're giving that's relevant to all of us.
Yes. Well, I like to say that I've gotten such wonderful advice. And if I mention a couple names, hopefully that's okay.
Oh, absolutely.
From both small and large creators. I want to give a big shout out to Olga Nadal, who is listening right now, and I just love her so much. Also, Sunny Lenarduzzi has really helped me out. Roberto Blake has been a constant source of support, mentioning me in videos and giving me advice. Daryl Eves and Brandon Lee of This Is Tech Today. I have so many different mentors that really have helped me and really helped me focus. You know, one of the things on YouTube, which is difficult to kind of perceive, is that you really need to be narrow in your focus. You really need to figure out who you can help and help those people. And I've been very lucky to get advice from all those wonderful creators to be able to help the most people I can. And like you said, if your heart is in the right place, you know, I think sometimes you get success.
Even if you're wanting to start your own lawnmower podcast, isn't that right, Ian?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And actually, I would encourage that. There are a lot of people out there. Again, you know, when you're in YouTube, you're competing with billions. And so there are a lot of people who like lawnmowers, or there are a lot of people that like needlepoint. And luckily there's a lot of people that likes nerdy concepts like copyright, trademark, and, you know, brand deal type law content.
But that's what I like about you, dude, because usually the law, legalese, stuff like that, I would kind of glaze over and fall asleep. But you inject good comedy. I like the way that you put your videos together, and I really hope your channel, and I know your channel's going to absolutely explode. It's already exploding. But enough of inflating your ego for now, Ian. Let me get back to...
Let's keep doing that. Let's keep doing it.
If we get back to TFR here, obviously we're not funded by people like George Soros or any of the big kind of companies out there. They're not throwing any money at us to advertise their products. So what Chris and Cherie Geo have done, they've created something called Aya Life. Now, when I sometimes do my broadcast, I like to remind people to support the network and the show. They can go over to ayalife.com. And I was asking you during the break, Is that even allowed when I upload that to YouTube?
Well, it is, and I think it will continue to be. I mean, if there's express permission, if there are brand deals, I certainly think that YouTube and the other social media platforms will allow that, and because they want their creators to flourish. AdSense is really great, but it's not going to pay our rent, and so we're going to have to find other means to work out partnerships and brand deals with other companies. So I think over time it will exist and will continue to exist.
And it's that YouTube partnership program we're coming to next because, like I shared with you last time, I found myself in a really horrible position back in, I think it was September last year, when I was alerted to the fact that I had been demonetized on my main channel for something that they were calling duplication. Now, I got over that. I got my monetization back. I believe there was a lot of channels that had been misidentified under that wave of attacks that went on back then. Then the other day, I came off my show and I got a message from somebody called Unirock, good friend of mine, over on YouTube. He does streaming as well. Didn't know what was happening. Headed over to Discord, got in a Discord chat with him and a few other people, and I was made aware of something called repetitious content. And unbeknown to me, the show that comes on after me on a Monday and a Wednesday here, my good friend and sister Lucky, she had been hit with exactly the same thing, and she just uploads her shows or little news clips that she does herself. What is this all about, Ian? Is this something to do with, are they changing the algorithm because of Article 13 coming in? What's going on, dude?
Man, I'm smiling because I was thinking about that book, 1984 by George Orwell. Wow, we're starting to see evidence of that. And here's the why. I get this from a lot of my clients all day long about this repetitious content flag. Yes, I think this is evidence that YouTube's algorithms, even in America, in Scotland, in Poland, is tightening up. Even if you're not in the EU countries, it looks like the algorithm is tightening up. There have been a lot of reports about this false repetitious content complaint, and YouTube is aware of it and they're working on it. There's no question about it. They don't want this to happen. We think it's because of the fact that some people repeat a lot of the same language in their videos, like, hey, like and subscribe, or, be sure to join my channel, or maybe they have a kind of a tagline that they repeat. Additionally, there are some videos that actually do have repetitious content. They'll have a in-screen and out-screen, which have the same clips. So we're starting to see that. The main thing, and I think you and I both agree, is that YouTube is trying to combat those massive corporations now that are doing this thing where they're putting together videos and they're restructuring the scripts with the same words, just in different order, as a means to be able to get more views. And so I think that's really the main reason why YouTube has tightened up. But I got to tell you that it's causing a lot of creators a lot of havoc, and their channels are being shut down as a result.
And what if somebody finds themselves in that situation? Because when I was there, what happens is they actually take away your ability to have a live chat with YouTube. It's hard to get any real contact with people there. And I understand with like millions of minutes of video being uploaded every single minute, it's very hard for humans to be on top of everything. So the algorithms are taking over, right? So what would your advice be as a lawyer to somebody like Lucky, like Unirock, who has found themselves in this situation? Because in my mind, I don't see anything repetitious under what they're doing. And just for people out there, what it says on Google's actual help page is repetitious content, stuff like synthetic voices, read third-party content, or nonsensical content. Now, that annoys me anyway. I'm not too sorry to see the back of that. But then it comes down to repetitive or mindless content with no additional educational value, commentary, or narrative. Now, how on earth's name is an algorithm supposed to discern that?
I know. Well, there's a couple questions there. I think I'm going to tackle the first one, which was, what do you do? And I can identify with that because that's a lot of times, a lot of creators come to me as the first line of defense and they say, listen, this happened. What do I do? And I think, I always tell my clients to get some context at first. And that is that, boy, oh boy, we're on a free platform that offers you a lot of tools to be able to succeed with your business. So let's get thankful for a moment, right? And then the next thing is to acknowledge reality, and that is that you are with a billion different creators, and Google, with the might and power that it has, doesn't have the resources to address each and every complaint. So if you come with it with that context and you come with it in a humble manner, then oftentimes when you click that appeal button, which of course is the first thing you do, the first step you take, you have a better, you can detail the exact issue you have in a humble manner, in a respectful manner, and not in a manner that is, communicates entitlement. And then YouTube is much more responsive. I have to tell you that with my clients that have used that method, they get much better results. If that doesn't work, after communicating with YouTube via their website or email, then often I say, listen, go to Twitter and tweet at Team YouTube. That oftentimes gets the attention. Sometimes what I'll suggest too is to go to a larger creator. You'll see larger creators when they're on Twitter, they'll tweet at Team YouTube and they'll get immediate results. We'll just jump onto that stream and include the larger creator and Team YouTube in your posting of your problem. The third thing you can do, of course, is go to Reddit and post your problem on the YouTube subreddit there. YouTube has these employees, thousands or hundreds of employees, that are dedicated to looking at what's going on in the internet. And they monitor all these sites like Twitter and Reddit, and they're looking for problems and they're looking to help people with their problems. So those are the three methods: a humble approach to the appeal with evidence, going on to Twitter, maybe attaching yourself to a larger creator's stream when he or she is tweeting at Team YouTube, and then hitting Reddit finally in the YouTube subreddit and getting some solutions there.
Volume down there. That's my advice as well. I've always said to people, be professional about this. It's like in the real world. You rarely get anything that you're after if you go in there with an aggressive or kind of stinking attitude. And I know it's hard sometimes because you're really kind of stuck in catch-22. You're stressed out your head. But really, you have to take your time, be professional, approach them. And when it comes to actually getting a response from YouTube, like you said there, Team YouTube over on Twitter, that seems to be the most effective way of doing that. Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm trying to think what the next part was now.
I guess what you're saying is how I think what you were talking about is, how could the servers of YouTube and Google do this job of identifying this content?
I mean, what classes is mindless? I mean, you've got people on there eating Tide Pods, things like that. Is that not mindless? I didn't see those videos getting hit. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty mindless for sure.
Just a little bit. And you'd think to yourself, this is one way around it I've thought of. I mean, surely there must be some advertisers out there, probably the smaller ones, who really don't care what kind of content that their ads are on, so long as people are viewing it. And maybe
Correct.
YouTube need to come up with a new system. And again, I'm not telling YouTube how to do their job. However, surely there's some levels, some brands that would be happy to advertise on these channels that have now found themselves under demonetization. It just doesn't seem right.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's a difficult road to hoe. I believe that everyone who has a desire, committed desire to be on social media, start a channel, learn about not only the practice, but learn about yourself, learn about your commitment level and those things. But I will tell you that it's not for the faint of heart. I mean, it is a difficult process. You're going to face some definite hurdles. You're definitely going to have some unfair things done to you. But I got to tell you, the rewards are huge. So I would still encourage people to keep on trucking.
And the only thing that is good about this, I mean, we both discussed this during the break on the last show. We're so on the same page. We'd been watching the same video about how there was these companies now who basically churn out AI-created videos. And that is a good thing that they're trying to fight against that. However, there's so many innocent people getting caught up in this sweep that it's just outrageous.
I know. Well, isn't that the truth in life in general too? I'm sorry. And that is that a lot of people get caught up. I was thinking about, I was in Venice Beach, California this last weekend and saw all the graffiti. And there's good graffiti and there's bad graffiti. And a lot of times you see the city covering up a lot of good graffiti that really should be seen by the masses because of the fact that there's lots of bad graffiti. So yeah, it's going to happen. It's never going to be perfect, and the creators are going to have some patience with it. But I will say this, that not only will the creators have to have patience, but YouTube's going to have patience, because, I believe strongly in the fair use doctrine. I believe strongly in artists like Andy Warhol and others that basically made their career on expanding on the art of others. And I think it's one of the most wonderful, free and expressive things that a person can do, to be able to use someone else's art to expand it, maybe even make it visible to the masses where it wasn't before. So I still believe in it. And I believe that, I'm hoping that the European nations believe in it, and that they will implement Article 13 in a manner that's consistent with fair use.
So, as a YouTube lawyer, what's the kind of most common thing you deal with? Is it copyright and fair use issues?
Yes, it is. Majority of the time, it's demonetization, right? I mean, obviously, hit it where it hurts. I have a wonderful job, but people only see me when they're in jeopardy, right? It's intimidating to go to an attorney. I cost money, and so most of the time, I don't just get, hey, everything's going great, I just want to check in about the law. Most of the time, it is, listen, I make $60,000 a month on YouTube. I've had 41 copyright claims. Now I make $20,000 a month on YouTube. Something's got to give. We got to figure this thing out. And so when I get those calls, then I have to go into action, and I have to do it in a manner that's consistent with what you said, which is a professional attitude towards YouTube, and also with some gratefulness. Because bottom line is, where else do you get this free platform that pays you money for just doing videos on your bedroom?
Absolutely. And of course, for anyone out there, it's hard when you get going, Ian. We've all been there at the start of our channel. You lose the will to live. You wonder if you're ever going to get going. The subs go up so slowly. And then you come across these companies that say, that's okay. We can help you with that. We can give you like 500,000 subscribers over this amount of time, and just pay us this amount of money, and we'll give you so many views per video. What would your advice be to anyone thinking about taking that shortcut? For me, it's a no-brainer, but I want you to explain to anyone out there who might be thinking about this.
Well, gosh, I have to be real on it. There is pressure, especially when someone goes out and starts a YouTube channel and tells everyone about it, and then wants some credibility. So I've heard of stories where people have bought views and bought subscribers, and been okay. The thing that comes out, though, over time is, if you want to be an impactful creator, then you need to have an engaged audience. And what none of those services can promise is an engaged, that I know about, is an engaged audience. And it's just like, it would be like, think about it, giving a speech at a town square, and you hire a company to bring 500 people there. All right, when you're talking, giving your speech, you're going to get next to no clapping, no engagement, no laughing at your jokes, because they're just paid to be there. But what's really exciting is when 2 or 3 or 4 people that have really bought into Ian, really bought into whoever is speaking, there's a synergy there. And that is really, truly, that is the true, I guess, the value of YouTube, is building that audience, being with your friends, being able to help your friends. But a lot of those services, or all of those services, can't offer that.
I had to pinch myself there. I had to wonder if we were talking about YouTube or if we were talking about a Hillary Clinton campaign, bussing people in, things like that. But
takes a village.
Yeah, I digress. And you're one of the most upbeat characters I've seen on YouTube in a long time. Your energy's great. However, the other day I was quite shocked. I came across a video where Ian Corzine was scared of net neutrality. It's a phrase we bandy about a lot. What is net neutrality? What's it all about? Explain to us why you're scared.
Well, do we have another hour? Because I tell you, that's going to be a long conversation. Yeah, it's funny. Article 13 is extremely impactful in the world, but net neutrality is an issue that's primarily being discussed in America right now. Most other countries, I'm thinking of Canada and Australia, have some version of net neutrality laws, but it's much more open than what we have right now. Net neutrality is the concept that the internet waves should be free for people to communicate, and people should not be slowed down in those communications based upon their relative ability to pay. And so, hold on a second. Sorry. And so, darn it.
It's okay.
And so,
It's Hillary
yeah,
Clinton getting in touch with you. That's what it is. Tell
yeah,
that
I know
Kev Baker to
it's
lay
kind of
off
blowing
me.
up over here. I know. I apologize. But your program has a lot of fans, a lot of engaged fans. But the point of it is they should not be disallowed from communicating freely to the fullest extent based upon their ability to pay. And so we talk about the concepts of throttling. We talk about the concepts of blocking of websites. What we have right now is a situation where our ISPs, our broadband internet service providers, have the ability to throttle each and every American to the extent they see fit. They have the ability to be able to block any and all websites that they don't want me or any other American to see. That's the law as it stands right now. And frankly, I don't have a problem with it. You're going to laugh about when I say that. I don't have a problem with it if consumers had freedom of choice, right? Because you know what? These broadband ISPs, they're private companies with their own values. They're not governed exclusively by the government. So they can do whatever they want to do. So if let's say we have a restaurant out here called Chick-fil-A, and it's a chicken restaurant, and they have very religious owners. And so as a result, they're not open on Sundays. You can't go to Chick-fil-A on Sundays. And that's cool. That's their prerogative. That's their direction. They could do that. The problem is if there were only Chick-fil-A's in all towns in America, meaning that we just couldn't eat chicken or at a restaurant on Sundays. That would be the problem. And so that's what we have now. We have a situation where the law as it stands right now allows broadband ISPs to be able to dictate exactly what we can see and how fast we can see it. Now, I will tell you that they have not begun to really push on those powers because they know how strong a political concept net neutrality is. And so they're doing it, but they're infiltrating, right? They're doing small things. They're doing things like, internet is $50 a month, but if you pay $60, then you can access Netflix faster. Or you don't have to pay for this portion of your internet bill for Netflix programming or Hulu programming, so that they kind of guide people in one direction that makes them a lot of money. So the concept that I firmly believe in is freedom of the internet, not governed by monetary status, so long as we're not moving into an era of regulations. We don't want a situation where the government is somehow enforcing each and every internet connection. But what we do want is a free internet, and we all want freedom of choice. And I think that the current status of the law in America right now is not fitting of our time. If I had 3 broadband ISP providers in my town, and one of them decided to block, one of my favorite shows, Camera Conspiracies on YouTube, I would go, okay, they did that, so I'm going to the next one. And then freedom of choice would control, but we don't have that right now. I guess according to FCC records right now, a majority of households in America only have one broadband ISP.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty much the same over here as well. And one last thing before I let you get back to your day, sir, and I can't thank you enough for coming on here and sharing all of this with us. But over here in the UK on July the 15th, there is something called the UK porn ban going into effect. Now, before you think I'm a raging pervert, Ian, okay, this is obviously to protect the children, which yes. I absolutely understand. Of course, you don't want children being subjected to some of the images like that on the internet. However, my fear is, and yes, I might go a little conspiratorial here, is because we're protecting the children in this case, and they're making adults sign in to watch pornography, how far or how long do you think it's going to be before an internet ID comes along where we're going to have to sign in any time that we use the internet, whether it's to watch pornography, whether it's to go to YouTube, whether it's to go to Facebook, whatever it is? Do you think that's a realistic possibility, sir?
Oh, man, my mood just went down a little bit. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's far off. A lot of people, a lot of bad eggs are spoiling the whole bunch here. That would be an unfortunate situation because the internet is not just, it's the most amazing thing to come to our time. It's allowed us to become educated when we don't have $200 or $300 or $400,000 to go to a famous university. It's allowed poor people to access high-level concepts and to raise themselves up to be who they want to be. And so if there was a content ID situation, not only would the content that we'd actually view be controlled, but I fear that people wouldn't be as free with their ability to do research and to create and to be worried about monitoring by law enforcement agencies or civil agencies like the IRS or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think the people who are holding the event chose wisely as far as their subject matter. Everyone can get behind the fact that children should not be exposed to sexually explicit concepts. But I will tell you that it is a slippery slope.
Exactly, dude. Exactly. And we're almost out of time, Ian. So one last time, let everyone know where they can find your brilliant content. And from myself and the network here, we wish you all the best on your YouTube channel, man. Brilliant stuff.
Well, Kev, I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to be on your show. I love your show. I love your audience. They're a thinking audience. They're a sophisticated audience, and I just love being part of it. If they want to check out my channel, again, it's Ian Corzine. You just type in Ian Corzine on Google or YouTube, and you'll find my channel there. I do content for creators. I try to make it a fun time, 6 to 8 minute video where I educate creators on exactly the type of laws that they need to comply with to succeed in social media and YouTube and Twitch and Instagram and Facebook. So that's one area. If you have a question, feel free to put one in the comments. If you want to contact me on Twitter, it's at Ian Corzine. So I'm
Ian
really glad to be on the show.
Corzine, ladies and gentlemen, your YouTube and social media community lawyer. Brilliant guy, brilliant information. We'll have him back sometime soon. Don't go anywhere, folks. Joe Joseph will be joining me after the break. We'll be right back.